Hello and welcome to Face Off here on France 24. After weeks of protests and debates, the socialist government has finally blinked. Despite vowing to push through what he describes as a crucial reform of France's labor law, Prime Minister Manuel Valls has agreed to review and to amend a controversial bill as students and unions took the streets to express their opposition to the so-called El Khomri bill named after the labor minister. So is this a mere hitch, or could it be the death knell for François Hollande as his popularity keeps plunging, and with it, his hopes of reelection next year are diminishing? With me, Philippe Turl from Radio France Internationale and Jean-Marc Gonin with Le Figaro magazine. So over the last few days, the socialists have tried to push through this controversial bill, but in the face of protests, they've decided that they needed to review their text.
Prime Minister Manuel Valls presented a revised version of his labor reform law, watering down many of the controversial measures that had pushed unions and workers to protest. While redundancy plans will still be applied on the basis of a company's performance on a national level, safeguards will be put in place to avoid abuse.
We will put guarantees in the law to stop fraudulent behavior and what we call optimization. The goal here is that large corporations are not able to artificially create difficulties on their French sites in order to fire people. Those who want to come here to do business and create jobs must not be discouraged by a legal framework that is complicated, unstable, and completely different from other countries.
There will be other key changes from the initial draft. Severance pay obtained in industrial tribunals will no longer be capped. Instead, new limits will be based on a non-binding scale. Small businesses were also looking forward to extending work hours. Instead, they'll be required to have an agreement with one union-mandated employee in order to do so. The business community has vowed to fight these changes.
We will continue to fight for the country, to make France attractive for jobs, for growth. That's the fight we brought here today, to ensure the law didn't get watered down. So obviously we are disappointed.
Regardless, the government's new take on labor reform will be presented to the cabinet on March 24th.
And on Tuesday, the Prime Minister said he hoped the bill would be voted by this summer. Is this just something that was foreseeable, that the government was really trying to do something major, or was it a total surprise because the government thought this would go through very easily?
They thought with a weird idea that that would go through smoothly, but regarding the agenda, the date, when the schedule, we are 1 year away from the elections. The majority is breaking apart. It was almost political suicide to bring such a piece of legislation in a period like this one. It shows that François Hollande is so eager to have a gesture towards companies, small business employers, that they start.
This was a pro-business bill.
It was a pro-business bill because the whole pro-business community in this country asked for flexibility to put down hurdles to employing new people, to bring them down and have an easier legal access to contracts and to make them simpler. But it was foreseeable, as you asked, it was foreseeable that the whole trade unions and even youth organization would step in and say no. So the whole thing is a huge mess. It will go down in the handbooks of what not to do when you are in power.
I was going even further than that and say that it's been a double catastrophe for François Hollande and the government. It's been a catastrophe on one front because it's been a failure of social dialogue in this country, bringing the unions together to make them understand.
What François Hollande
what
really insisted on. I'm social dialogue.
Right. Well, it's been a complete muck-up on the social dialogue front because At the start, all the unions were against this bill, even the CFDT, which is a government-friendly union. So now we've got this situation where they've rewritten parts of the bill to bring the CFDT on board to try to stop the protests from taking place and get the bill through Parliament. They could have avoided that if they'd consulted properly with the unions beforehand without bringing in more dangerous aspects into this bill which the unions weren't consulted about, and then the union said, well, what's going on here? There are things here that we didn't agree upon that are written into the bill, so we're against it. That was the first disaster. The second disaster has been really the government's own ability to publicise and to explain what this bill is all about. They first of all come on the scene and say, well, we have a new bill here to redo the labour laws, and if we don't manage to put it through, we're going to force it through by using what we have in France, which is called 49.3, which is a special system in France where bills can be passed without a vote in Parliament, which, of course, got everybody annoyed before discussions on the bill had even started. So the government has got it totally wrong in trying to explain what this bill is about, how important it is, and that the unions have not been consulted as they should have been. And the third thing, which has been a catastrophe, is the fact that young people weren't consulted about it either, and they forgot all about the young unemployed to see what they thought, and now they have also said, well, we're against this bill. So the government has got it all wrong, and there's been a real disaster on the front of trying to explain what this is about to push it through.
I wouldn't agree with you about the young unemployed. The youth organizations that have started to protest are not young unemployed. They are representing a class of young people who have no worries about unemployment compared to the young who lack a real degree to go into the work market.
Right.
Market.
But what's interesting politically is that you have the unions, you have the youth, and you have a sizable part of the Socialist Party that are dead set against this reform. And this is really, really worrying for François Hollande. His popularity is around 17%, which has never been seen before. And it must be worrying for him to see that those supposed to support him are coming out against him in force.
Yes, there is more than this bill about this. I mean, he's so weak now that you have, it's like Agatha Christie's murder in the Orient Express. You know, there are so many hands who can hold the knife and knife the almost dead body that you have a lot of culprits around. Now it's really too late for him to even try some kind of political endeavor of this size. It's really too late. And you see that the compromise will please nobody. The employers won't get the message, and I don't think it will restart the engine for job contracts. On the contrary, they will stay very cool about this. And the opposition will come out, the opposition from the left will come out angrier against the president as it was 1 month ago.
You've got this watered-down version of this bill now, which is being presented, which is really just a step
And it's going to be debated further in Parliament.
It's going to be debated in Parliament. So we've got this situation now, which is quite interesting, where you have the right opposition, which is favourable for the bill. You have the left, which is in power, on the far left of the Socialist Party, which is against the bill. And they're saying, water the bill down, which the government has now done, and we might vote for it. A lot of them are saying it's still not enough, so we still won't vote for it. And on the right, they're saying, well, if you water it down, we won't vote for it either. So when the vote comes to Parliament, it looks like whatever François Hollande does to try to please the right, if he waters it down, the right won't be pleased. And if he tries to water it down, it's not enough for the left. So it looks like no one's going to vote in favour of this bill.
And
could this be a fatal mistake for him?
Yes, and I think it's a fatal mistake. And the mistake, I will add to what Philip just said, there's also now a rift that is even bigger between the president and the prime minister. Because when this compromise was found, the prime minister had to read it aloud in front of the cameras, as you have all seen, and you could see that the man was really unhappy with what he had to do. He's not a great speaker, but the way he was just reading the piece of paper, you could feel that it was not his idea, and he was ordered by the president to do so. So he's lost face in the whole process. So the wrath between the two men will be even bigger. So the power will come out weakened by this.
And do you know what the moral of the story is? At the end of the day, that in France is practically a country where no reform will go through without a huge argument and will come out completely watered down away from the original proposition. The only way to get reforms through like this is to do it at the start of your mandate. When you propose it during your presidential campaign, say we're going to change the labour laws, we're going to make it easier for companies to hire people and to fire people. Then if you're popular, then you push the reform through the minute you're elected. You don't wait until a year before the next election when you're at rock bottom in the opinion polls, because then your reform has no chance of going through. And this is a total illustration of that.
But this is true for many Western democracies. When you are in the last year of your mandate, don't start with big reforms.
Right. Okay, we'll have to see how this one fares. Obviously, the odds are not looking very good for François Hollande and for Prime Minister Manuel Valls. We'll see when the bill comes to Parliament later this month. Thank you for watching this edition of Face Off. We'll see you next week here on France 24.